The sleepy English village of St. Mary Mead, where time has stood still for nearly 1,000 years. Setting for the Agatha Christie murder mystery, The Mirror Cracked. Her books have sold over 500 million copies throughout the world. Her name is associated with one thing, murder. Now the producers of Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile have again put together an international cast in a multi-million-dollar movie with Guy Hamilton, director of 4 James Bond films, at the helm.
Anyone take one?
Well, I wanted to get essentially away from that type of thing and go back to some of my roots. I adore comedy, and this is a large section of it, is comedy mixed up with the whodunit.
The first intrusion into the piece of St. Mary Mead comes from a legendary Hollywood star, played appropriately by Elizabeth Taylor.
I play, believe it, Marina Gregg, a movie star, an American actress who comes to England on location for a film. Well, the part that I play is absolutely wonderful in its diversity. There's humor, chewing up the scenery, pathos. So it has all kinds of elements of every kind of actor's dream.
Miss Taylor's husband is played by Rock Hudson.
I play a director of a film being shot in a very small little English village. We are attempting to make Mary Queen of Scots. And Elizabeth plays Mary.
A local Boys Brigade band signals the arrival of yet another silver screen legend and Marina's arch-rival, Lola Brewster, the full Hollywood exotic, together with her husband, producer Marty Fenn. To us, they're better known as Kim Novak and Tony Curtis.
When I decided to play this producer, I said, well, let's see now. I got a pinstripe suit made, and then I got a gray single-breasted with a vest, striped shirts, black ties or red tie. I wore a fedora, gloves, a top coat, and as I put on that clothing, I felt like Lepke or Al Capone or Moran or Babyface Nelson or any one of those gangsters in those early days in the 30s. And that's how I play this producer.
I do love Lola. She's great because she's something totally different than anything I've ever played. She's a high-strung, very difficult lady, actress.
Add to this illustrious quartet Charlie Chaplin's daughter Geraldine, and you have 5 explosive ingredients that are likely to provide more than just drama.
Quiet, please.
Marina! Oh, Jason's screaming for you. Your guests are piling up.
Oh, but I'm having such fun.
Try a little restraint.
Perhaps I could borrow some of yours. We seem to share so much.
At Marina's party that evening, one of the local guests drops dead.
I have no choice but to record a verdict of murder by poisoning.
The case finds its way to St. Mary Mead's legendary amateur detective, Miss Marple. Like Hercule Poirot, she provides the brains and intuition in many of Agatha Christie's thrillers. She's played by Angela Lansbury.
Hello, Aunt Jane.
My favorite nephew. What a pleasant surprise. What are you doing here?
Well, I've come to see you.
Or to inquire about Heather Babcock. What would a chief inspector from Scotland Yard be doing in St. Mary Mead if poor Heather had died of natural causes?
Well,
I think that the difference between her and her nephew is that he has all the might of Scotland Yard and all the technical facilities of forensic stuff and so on. She, on the other hand, spends her time wading through mountains of trivia and detail of a rather local kind, which in fact are the very things that lead her to solve the mysteries.
Well, nobody's as bright as Auntie.
Edward Fox plays Inspector Craddock.
She's very, very bright.
I think that he's not nearly as dumb as he makes himself out to be.
Well, show business is just a business, Aunt Jane.
Well, what we need is a little more business and a little less show. In fact, there's a wonderful saying I read not too long ago about Hollywood. Underneath all that phony tinsel, there's the real tinsel.
That's very profound, Archie.
In the movie, the American stars have come to England to shoot a remake of Mary, Queen of Scots, a film within a film. The Mirror Cracked is set in the 50s, a time when Hollywood stars were usually the property of individual studios.
I was under contract for 18 years, and it was like serving a sentence. Penal servitude.
They would put me or us in small parts, one line in one scene. The nightclub doorman, say, or the gas station attendant, to give you experience, which is, of course, the best teacher. And then, you know, little by little, I'd get maybe a scene to do, or eventually a small part, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's part of the growing period.
Well, you see, they needed a training program. Each studio then was doing, wow, they must have been doing 50, 60 pictures a year, and you multiply that by almost 10 different studios. That was a lot of movies being made. But they had to do that, you see, because the market needed it then. But you've got to remember also, that was a 25 cents movie. That's what we paid for in America in those days. And when a picture went out and grossed $3, $4, $5 million, that's like a movie grossing $60 million today at a $5 ticket.
In those days, and later on, I was under contract to one studio, and which was Universal. Now, let's say that there was a lovely part coming up in at Paramount or at MGM. Well, I would certainly try to get into what we called a loan out, so I could be able to go to that studio and do that film. And most of the time, I was not allowed to go. And instead of doing a good film, I would be put in something I hated, and I had to play it, being under contract.
Today, back in England, Miss Taylor and Miss Novak are demonstrating that there is little love lost between their rival characters.
Jason, will you get that creep out of my eye line?
Cut.
Who? Who, me? Why, was I in your eye line? Oh, but I just wanted Jason to see my costume.
Dear, will you put the Virgin Queen back into her cage?
To see Taylor and Novak behaving cattily and scratching each other's eyes out, I think is absolutely stunning and wonderful. I thought that the ladies would say, come on, guys, this is a little bit too close to home, you know, I think, you know, couldn't you soften those lines? And instead, they said, oh, love 'em.
One of the most remarkable things about this film is the return to the screen after a 5-year absence of Elizabeth Taylor. Today, she is the wife of American Senator John Warner. At the age of 12, she was already a film star.
I didn't go through a transition from child actress to grown-up. I slowly kept working, and the transition just sort of happened. When I was 15, I looked about 18. And when I was 18, I looked about 20, and when I was 20, I looked about 20. So I never went through that thing where they lock you away and wait for you to grow up.
She made National Velvet with Angela Lansbury.
When we saw one another, she looked at me absolutely blankly. She didn't recognize me at all. And then she suddenly saw my eyes, and she let out a shriek.
Working with Elizabeth again, another first after 25 years. It's terrific.
Wonderful. She's an extraordinary woman. I mean, to get a chance to work in a movie with her, you got to take it.
I was thrilled when they cast Elizabeth for this role, because I think she's a great star, and I thought it was a nice opportunity to work with her and get to know her.
You know, Dermot, I always think that murder is like a jigsaw. Until you fit it in the final piece, you can't see the whole picture. Obviously, we still have a piece missing.
Who did do the poisoning? Now you've got me.
I don't think I should tell you, because I think it would, I think like with all Agatha Christie's, I think it would terribly spoil your enjoyment to know.
Because if you know going in who that person is, the filmmaker has to be damn good to lay out that story in such a way that you have no way of knowing the fact that they did in fact do it until that last piece of evidence comes up.
Ah, but I never open the last page. I mean, that's the whole trick.
I'm not going to tell you.
Couldn't possibly. No. You know, you never reveal the source of your information. And I'm not about to reveal to you. who the murderer is.
Could be the butler, though.
I'm not going to give an inch.
Well, I'm not going to tell you that. Do you think I'd tell you that, honey? You just have to go out and buy a ticket.